Okay. All righty. So, a couple of things that we're doing slightly differently than before, just for those that are kind of new. This is only our second month going at this. So, I'm trying to, rather than having a speaker speak to the group, I want to hear from the group. So, I've been trying, and obviously we'll work on this and make this better as we go. But I've been trying to start a conversation and questions as kind of the backbone to our conversation. I welcome anybody that wants to add to that, to do that, so we can kind of gear a conversation. What I've noticed over the 5 years doing this is you always need an anchor point for the conversation to kind of stray off of. And it's okay if it strays off of that a little bit, but just so it has somewhere to go. So that's what I'm using that for. That said, so we had some great discussions. Rob Manny was in the last one, Christina, Eden, and whatnot. And if I've left you out, sorry, apologies. But we had some great conversations about different tools that we use from a sales perspective. And I was just listening to a really good podcast. I listened to this one. It's called, I have to look it up. It's called, oh man, what's the name of this? Think Fast, Talk Smart. It's a professor in Stanford. He's a communications professor in Stanford, and I listen to him every once in a while. And he had on one of my favorite authors, two brothers that write a lot, Chip Heath and Dan Heath. If you make it stick, and others like that. So Dan Heath is talking about his new book called Start Leveraging, and it's like, wow, what he was talking about. This idea of using levers is a brilliant concept for us in times the times we're in, where it's like there's economically challenging, and our clients are going to be struggling to spend money. They know they need to keep moving, but I thought this was a good example. The other ones that I put in on the questions under the app, I put 3 questions, the stuff that was rattling around in my mind that we could anchor the conversation on, but we'll see how that goes. So the 3 things I had at the time, I think it was, the one too many tariff articles I was reading. And I said to myself, there's a familiar sense of anxiety in politics, economics, and global events. It's distracting. And for my question for you guys is, how do you stay focused on a daily and weekly grind, new business development and moving projects forward? That was one of the things that was rattling around in my mind. And I'm sure it's rattling around the clients when you're having conversations as well. All these uncertainties lead to distractions. The other one I put in there is, what's your business development recipe? What has changed for the last year? And what I mean by a recipe is and I was talking to Pam, my one-on-one in the matchups with Pam, and she was citing off the different things they're doing to bring business in the door. And I call that your business model recipe, right? It's like, or your business development recipe. What are the things? You're networking, you're here, you're obviously doing that. Rob, you speak, you're right. You have your speaking engagements, you have a LinkedIn profile, you do other writing. What is the recipe that you use, and what's changed from last year? And the last one I wrote is, are you considering any significant changes to your business model this year? And Eden, you shared a few things that you're doing last time we talked. How are you adapting, or are you adapting in the new circumstances? Those are 3, but I want to add one that I heard from Dan Heath there, and I'll just rattle it, and you guys could pick what you want to focus on. But he talked about using levers, and he had a really good example, and it kind of resonated with me, because we're talking to my adult son about perspective, right? Perceptions. And he's new to the dating world, so he's coming out of a bad relationship, and he's like, all you see of that person are the negative things about that person. But at the beginning of the relationship, your blinders are on, all you can see is the good things. And he was talking about an example of this marriage counselor. She sees this couple, they're in a bad state, they're come towards the end of the relationship, they want to salvage it, but she only has them for an hour a week. And like, out of 168 hours that they're actually working together, what can she do to kind of work towards making this relationship better? And these are what Dan Heath taught leaders. Like, what are these little things? And you think about lever from the science class, right? Like, if you use a lever, you can use a limited amount of force to lift something up, because the lever's helping you, right? So in our terms is like, what is a small thing that we can do? It could be small price, small effort, small whatever, that has this incredible big value on the other end of it. And the solution, one of the solutions he talked about for this marriage counselor, she said, I want you to do an activity. I want you to put sticky notes in the bathroom where you brush your teeth. And while you're brushing your teeth, doing nothing at all, I want you to write a note, think about one thing, good thing about your partner, and leave it on the mirror so they can come in and see it on the next one out. And the whole point about it is it wasn't about like making mistakes. It's a lever to start changing their perceptions about how they see each other, right? And so this tiny little thing, which costs absolutely no money, ends up having this massive value at the end of it. And it's little effort. So from a client perspective, low cost, low effort, big value, right? And the reason I love that concept is if we can do something in a new business relationship or in a relationship that's stalled, or a relationship where their client's having trouble and they're giving you rationale why they don't want to spend money, you could do a little lever like that that opens up big value for them. It makes you more valuable to them, and they'll look for more of those little levers moving forward. So that's what I want to kind of focus on. And I'll start with my leader, and then I'm gonna go around the room. We're gonna watch the time, as you know, as I've sucked up a whole bunch of it. So we don't want to be like me. But like introduce yourself, give it a short intro because we know who you are. Just remind us about who you are, and then we can get all the other information online. So, for example, I'm a digital transformation consultant. I help clients grow and keep their value propositions alive through systems, right? So to make sure there's consistency in how they grow. That's mine. My lever is it goes back to what Rob was sharing with us last time we talked, is the concept of a discovery or an assessment. A discovery is a brilliant tool that technology people, Rajiv, you'll be familiar with this. We use that because we need to get in there. We need to learn a lot about the client, and we can share just based on our past experience, and the client's going to gain a lot from it. It doesn't cost a lot of effort, but it gives us good value. They get good value from it. It doesn't cost a lot. It tends to be about 10% of what the large project will cost. So that's my lever. And Rob gave some great examples, out of that. So I'm just going to pass it around. I want David's already introduced himself, so I'll make him last so he can think about that. But I'm not to pick anybody. I'm gonna pick on somebody who I know is super smart, who's going to get this. And so I'm going to give Dorothy a head start. So Dorothy had this really good lever she used, and not to steal it. She had this. I'm going to help you return. Again, I'm totally bastardizing this on purpose. Like, don't think I'm just don't know what I'm talking about, Dorothy. You had this automated respond, a return, remember to reply back to follow. It's an automatic follow up. That's a brilliant lever. Like right there. Easy for you to set up, huge value if you can. So I'm going to lead to Dorothy. Introduce yourself. Talk about, you don't have to use that example, but talk about one like that.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Richard. That was so kind of you. So Dorothy, as in the Wizard of Oz. And I help business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants leverage your time, maximize revenue opportunities by leveraging the power of automation and AI. So I'm around that space. But this is a great conversation, Richard. And one of the things I should have done from last year, and I'm working valiantly and vigorously, and maybe those of your coaches or do that, is I am actually working on a workshop. But when I do workshops, my workshop is not what is that front end. My workshop is what's the back end offer and how do I ascend people to the place that I want to get them. So that's what I'm actually doing, is launching my workshop this month, selling to a small ticket item, ascend them to something higher until they get to the highest level. And that way, not only I'm getting people in, I'm getting a lot of people in. So we know how that funnel works, right? But I'm getting those people in, and I will be converting people at different stages. So that's why things that I'll be doing. What I'm also doing now is really using ad dollars to build my email list, because we know social media, it's really pitiful in terms of the engagement. So that's one thing I would say to this group now. Well, I'm a digital person and I believe in digital, but I also believe you have to put money behind your digital if you want to get faster growth. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, I like that. Two great ones. Two good examples. Oh, Rob, perfect. Because I was going to try to pick on somebody else. Go ahead, Rob. You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm not going to introduce myself. I wanted to ask Dorothy a follow-up. What's a reasonable expectation of how much we should be spending on paid as a practitioner?
Yeah, Okay, you know what? You'll get tons of different things.
Yeah.
So there is a school of thought. So depending on what it is, if you're going for something, if you're giving away something free. So right now I'm giving away something free. So I spend based on how many ads I have, I do $5 per ad. So if I'm testing 5 ads, that would be $25 a day. So you can look at that as a minimum threshold and move up. But that's not where it ends. Then I'm looking at this and say, how do I optimize this? So I look at the ads that are working for me, kill the ones that don't work, and then the ones that are working, put a little bit more money behind it. So I keep scaling up like 20%.
Thank you.
And Rob, you could probably finish that up and make sure that they have a really good landing page. And then you've got some automation that happens in HubSpot potentially that follows up.
And Dorothy knows a lot about that too, but thank you.
Yeah, and then I would say Christina would talk to you about landing page SEO and keywords and how to find the long tail search, so you're not spending a ton of money in a highly competitive ad market. So like, I don't know. So Rob, introduce yourself and talk to me about a lever.
Sure. My name is Rob Maney. I run a company called Inflective. We help implement and optimize HubSpot to help maximize sales and marketing ROI, basically. So the reason I asked that question is I talked to a competitor of ours, not a competitor, they do something different, but similar size, and they spend $5,000 a month on ads. And I was like, that is a hefty sum. And I'm like, what is a good benchmark? So I'll put that out there. Maybe people want to react to that in a minute. In addition to the diagnostic lever that I mentioned last week that I wouldn't say has been super used a lot, we started something called HubSpot Mentorship because we found that there's quite a big barrier between when we meet people who need our help and then what our service is as a project or even a retainer kind of thing. So if we find that the person is quite capable, meaning able to do a lot of things themselves, and they're going to be a fit for us longer term, we say, let's do something called mentorship where we do 1 or 2 hours every week. We meet with them. It's a working session to work through whatever challenges that they have. And then we set the agenda for the next week or the next meeting. So it's like, so you can get through certain things at a slower speed. And we sometimes say your homework before next meeting is to go and, I don't know, build the landing page. And then we come back and make great. Now you built the landing page. Now let's build the automation on top of that. So that's a good way where it's 1 to 2 hours every week can kind of be something. And after 2 months, then they're like, oh, we love you guys. Let's work with you on an ongoing basis.
Do you charge for that, Rob?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! I love it. That's great.
If you didn't charge at all, then it wouldn't work. Karen?
And people wouldn't put the effort in either, right?
Yeah, they just wouldn't think it was valuable.
Go ahead, Karen.
Oh,
you're muted. Yeah.
Still muted.
It's bottom left. See, there's a hang up button, and it's the very last item in the center on the menu there.
It's going to be an amazing question, I can tell.
Yeah, perfect.
So are you using that almost kind of as a lead-in tool to because you're telling them something that is high value but low cost, but it's more of a do-it-yourself type of thing. Yeah. And then so that you're building a relationship with them so that at such future point in time, they would be ready to fully implement. Or
what we're trying to do is, the dance, the consultant to client dance. We're trying to sort of shorten that and get to the punch bowl. I don't know what the analogy is, but just be like, get over that barrier of trust. Let's just start working together. If after a week it doesn't work, then no harm, no foul. They've gotten something.
Okay. Interesting.
And I would say it's probably a lower cost price because is it a group of people that you're working with at one time, or are you working this individually?
We typically do the first meeting with me and my colleague Jess, who's more technical, and then depending on what we're working on, we say, okay, I'll meet with you next week because it's more entry level, and then the following week she'll do. So we kind of trade off depending on what the needs are. But we wouldn't do this for very, like, if someone wants to implement a system, we're not going to do this process. It's usually to optimize a certain portion of their HubSpot or their operations, or it doesn't replace a project.
So one thing, like if you want even a lower price point, offer it as a group, and then you can. So you're prospecting, and it's like me invited Dave to this meeting. David, sorry. They get a sense of it. It doesn't cost you any effort, right? So you invite them to a group, and you can wholeheartedly discount that without feeling any way about it, because you're still not putting it like you put the same amount of effort if 3 people showed, 2 people showed, or 10, right? Well, obviously if they get too many people, it gets to become a bit more challenging. But
I think that's similar to Dorothy's workshop idea.
Exactly. Linda runs a sales training group as the key part of that too. So that it's something somebody taught me about in this the kind of the coach's pyramid, right? So we start broad for free, group for cost, but it's like it's everybody's sharing your cost, and then one-on-one is your actual cost, right? So it's like that pyramid of that same idea.
I'll just add, as a consumer or as a business owner, I took advantage of that so there was someone who was doing LinkedIn video training. It's very well known in sort of this one community I'm in. And he said, I'm doing a $99 workshop US. And I was like, I've been meaning to do this. Fine, I'm going to join the workshop. And I got some valuable tools from it. Ultimately, it made me think I really need to hire this person because he'll do what I need him to do. But it still was a valuable $99 to kind of almost like get me to a new stage in my journey with them. I'll stop talking now.
No, perfect. So Karen, just because you asked the question, if you don't mind me asking what your lever is.
I have no idea what my lever is because I got back into this, but I'll introduce myself to those of you. I think I've met pretty much everyone except for Danielle, Rajiv, and Dorothy, and I guess David, because you're new. So I'm a fractional CMO who helps startups gain traction by fixing their strategy, structure, and execution before they invest in marketing. So what I do is, unlike a typical fractional CMO who's merely focused on marketing, execution, so lead gen, brand awareness, strategy, all that type of stuff, I go beyond that to align marketing, the sales, product, and operations to ensure that growth is built to last. So my clients tend to be early stage startups and or service-based businesses where the CEOs really stretch too thin. So I was telling Richard last Thursday, I've been a fractional CMO now for probably 3 or 4 years. I've been with this one same client who owns a number of different businesses. So I just kind of go as his CMO from one company to another company. But what I find I've been really doing is functioning almost as sort of his right hand, because in both of my clients' cases, they tend to be all over the place and they're not marketers or strategic. And so I end up leading the teams every week. And so I am trying to create that differentiation for myself as a fractional CMO who actually can be a general manager. Which makes me a little bit different, I think, from sort of your standard CMO who's kind of grown up through the corporate marketing rank, which is what I did. I don't really know what my lever is. I'm just here to listen. But I think what I've been thinking about is similar to what Rob and Dorothy just mentioned, because one of the things that I also do is I'm the lead marketing mentor at The Forge, which is McMaster's incubator. And so I run, although I'm not doing it this year, I've been a lead marketing mentor for their Startup Survivor program, which is a summer program that they do to onboard a number of recent grads or near grads who come up with a startup idea that they want, help launching. And so I've created some content around workshops, but I'm also thinking I'd like to do something like what Rob just mentioned, where I'm figuring out how I can productize all of the knowledge I have so that I can do what I do for more people. And so I'm curious about the workshop idea. I'm also thinking of it similar to what you guys were saying, where I go in and I'll provide like a strategic growth framework or something I'm kind of figuring out right now, where I kind of take all the experience I've gained working with the startups that I've done for the last 4 years. and packaging it in a way that is either like a course, or I don't know what it is exactly yet, that they can experience a bit of what I know how to do, and I get a sense to assess whether they're the right kind of next client for me. And then ultimately get into sort of a long, all my clients have always been very long term, because I go in as one thing and I end up doing a bazillion other things.
That is a fractional right there on a heartbeat. That is exactly the life of a fractional. I was going to say for you, and others can jump in, is like, I just see an audit. Like, are you even ready to start advertising, like spending money on marketing and advertising? Like, because that is like, that could be done in a conversation, or, and you can expand it to a day, you know, it's depending on how big the company is. And man, that assesses whether you even want to work with them. And it's,
Right.
you don't have to do anything. You could do that right today. You could have a conversation like that tomorrow. So like,
Right.
I was just thinking that you go ahead, Dorothy. So,
I mean, you got me going. You could put some money behind that audit, Karen, and have that whole funnel. But back to the your incubator startup, in terms of productizing your knowledge, absolutely doable. That's how I actually got into the other side of the coaching, because I always wanted to productize my knowledge. I find workshops, webinars, anything like that gives you that great opportunity. You can start easily with videos. You can set up a whole video series. That's one way to productize your knowledge without
Right.
having to put so much effort into it. And then you can take that and I can go all day. You can repurpose that in so many other ways, but that's an easy way to start. And there's so many tools now, AI tools and so on, that can really help you to get that out there quickly. So one thing, absolutely, I would endorse that idea of productizing, and an easy low-hanging way to do it is to start a video series.
I'm gonna add to that. When you guys are ready to do courses, there is a course component to Heartbeat that I could just turn on, and we could try it out. And it actually has some elements to help you, like everything you need. Like, it's really, a lot of these community apps are really about selling courses. It's how influencers make money on the side. I just turned it off. I didn't find it too useful for me right now. So there's that element, and then we could also look at opening up another product on this, where you could just have your people come in, and school is another one. I checked out school. And that's a good component. I know some people that are using it. A few friends read. It didn't work for me, but it's the same one. There's a bunch of them out there that do it. But I'm already paying for this one, so you can use it for free. You can bring your audience in. We could set up another offer that they come in direct. Let's talk about that another time. But I love that awesome the course thing. I'm going to go over to Eden, because Eden just did, more of a business development thing with the webinar. I want to know how that worked out. And that's a good example as a lever as well. Like, business is more business development, but still it could lead into it. Go ahead, Eden.
And after your last bit, my head is swirling now, because I was like, what am I going to say for all this? But there's a gazillion things. So please indulge me and just tell me if I'm going on for too long. And nice to meet you, David. I'm definitely in the 45, even the 55 plus. So I'm going to take a look at elderberry too. So basically, okay. So my company is also a Women Business Enterprise Certified one. And to make a long story as short as I can, a group of us got together and decided we wanted to test doing webinars together. And it was supposed to be something that a group of us who got together, and there's over 40 of us, and I had suggested, I'm going to take credit for the suggestion of starting webinars, but I had suggested that we look at doing a monthly webinar. Well, basically a small group of people came forward and said, I'll help. And of that small group, 5 of us became the ones who were ready to roll our sleeves up. And we were the ones that you would have seen in the video last week. We decided to roll out our first panel discussion to coincide with International Women's Day. So we did it last Thursday, 2 days prior to. The beautiful thing is with that, we took a topic that was essentially in the B2B space. It was industry agnostic, and our target audience, although it was, business owners of any gender, was really getting the people who are the ideal women business enterprise member on the corporate enterprise size, like government and the big providers, to look at us, because a lot of them have diversity mandates and they want to bring more women-owned business into their supplier and procurement efforts. And they also think that, they know some of us are smaller, especially when it comes to the B2B side and consulting. And they want to see that we're we have one of our panelists is sort of on the inside of this a bit more. They want to know that we're very collaborative. They want to see that we can work, that we do work well together. It's lower risk for them to have a group of us involved in a project than to have one or two, even two of us, because they're splitting the risk up. So we got together. There was myself, who's a digital marketer, a video storyteller, a person who works on conflict resolution in the workplace, a person who works in recruitment and placement, and a leadership and executive coach, of which I wear many hats, you'll hear in a sec. So we all got together and we recorded, we cross-promoted it. We did a little bit of PR, we did a little bit of marketing, we did a little bit of networking to get the word out very organically. Even though we spent a couple months to get to where we are, we only left ourselves about 10 days to promote it. So did we do everything in an ideal marketing strategy world? No. However, we did get a lot of people coming from a lot of different places. We understand that we had different people from Business Development Canada, BDC, and one of them shared it with some colleagues of his in Poland. Like, this thing went around. And Richard, you took a photo that I've given you credit for and appears on my LinkedIn today. And we used it as an opportunity to create a lot of content. Well, we're in the process of creating a lot of content around it by sharing different insights. Janine took some key clips and made a video that she felt that all of us could share with the 5 of us that would make sense to help us promote our businesses in different ways. And we may slice and dice things more. There's a ton of content and ideas we have. If we can keep this within us, we're looking at creating a case study of how we all work together, because we know for the WIBI audience, that's what Women Business Enterprise calls themselves, it's going to be powerful. And there's been nothing like this before. And although we're not under their umbrella for this type of initiative, they're very supportive. And we want to show, the coverage we got, the results we got, and all the different types of things, and show how we've all worked together, become super close in the process, and pitch them to speak on a panel at the annual conference in November. So, and one of the really touching things is it's a diverse group of people and women are considered a diverse group. But there were people there who say, for different reasons, they have been not accepted. Let's say, like, one in particular has never had a good experience working with other women business owners or just in business before, and said, not only do I feel accepted, I feel like this is my place. Like, you've all really embraced and taken me in. Like, we all just really clicked. So we're using a lot of that energy to help promote. And I've probably gone on way too much, but that's, if you look at it as a lever, yes. I sometimes wonder, is it too generic? Because it's not driving directly to one specific business or one specific type of work, but it's helping to lift us all up together as an entity and help us build or rebuild our thought leadership and get it out to each other's networks.
I was going to say, the combination of the group, you got to work together too. Like, there is a ton. I just do a lot of RFPs from my fractional. There's a ton that you go after that would, with women-led business. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's just something to think about as another, things dry up other places. I'm going to go to Vanessa, who has done a lot of little one-on-one copywriting 101, HubSpot 101s to get in. What did you?
I was just going to say, can I introduce myself and just say a couple things? Tell people,
sure,
besides having spoken for digital marketing, I'm also a leadership coach. And one of the areas that we've seen as a growth area for us, which is why I want to talk about it, is because I have a background in adult education at the post-secondary level with some institutions, and that is also online course creation and development, from strategy through to implementation on the learning management system, such as, I guess, I'm not as familiar with what Heartbeat's capabilities are, but I might be able to help add some value there. And I've actually taken the product of our digital marketing offering and turned it into a course that I offer online, and all those areas cross now.
It's super. The
And
course.
Sorry,
aspect,
Vanessa.
The course aspect is super popular right now. So go ahead, Vanessa.
Hi, so I'm Vanessa Green. I own Greenlight Content, content marketing, copywriting business in Hamilton. It's really interesting, like hearing everyone talk about their different levers, because I feel like we're always having to find ways to try and like either generate new revenue streams or just find different ways to sell or offering. So I think for me, Richard, you mentioned like the HubSpot thing, and it's something that actually lately has been pretty valuable, that I am like a HubSpot provider. So I'm able to like resell HubSpot and get a commission, but then also run the marketing programs for my clients. So I've actually had a couple onboarded in the last month, and it's been valuable because the HubSpot's kind of like the more technical side, and I worked in HubSpot agencies like for years, so I kind of know the software. But where I feel like I add value is I can also run like the content programs through the software. So you don't have to hire like separate people. A lot of times you have to hire like a technical person like Rob to do all that like HubSpot stuff on the technical side. And I definitely don't have the bandwidth to offer like the full scope of what Rob does. So my clients, it's a smaller group, but if they don't have a huge budget, I can kind of do more for less. Like I can do the execution and the writing and build out email campaigns, and then also like manage their CRM. So even though I position myself as like a copywriter, content marketer, I do actually have quite a few like HubSpot clients where I'm like running that program for them. And that's been really valuable because they don't have to go out and find either a full service agency that they can't afford or two separate freelancers that it's kind of confusing because you have to get them to collaborate. So that's been recently quite beneficial for me. The only challenges I find, like getting HubSpot clients is hard, as I'm sure Rob knows. It's a big investment. The pricing has gone up a lot. A lot of small businesses can't afford it. So I've found a couple clients, but I don't know if it's a huge pool of people that like I would necessarily be able to work with, but I have found some luck in that space.
The good thing about the hub, and I've always thought about it, Rob and I talked about it too, like it opens up a whole whack of marketing things that you could do from person as soon as the hub. It is a freemium, right? So what can you, so your market, and because you're not a hub, yes, you do the HubSpot, but the writing is the aspect that you really want to get to, right?
Mhm.
So help them set up a free HubSpot. Once they got that just opens the door for you to do a ton of things for them, right? That could
For
be a
sure.
lever on itself, right?
Yeah.
But I love that you're doing more HubSpot stuff. That makes sense. So
Mhm.
when I first met Vanessa, she helped me when we're a HubSpot reseller, and me as a business development person, she helped me write up a lot of correspondence in it, just helped me get the basics going. So I could tell you it was really super helpful. I'm going to go to Danielle. And there's only one of us, so I'm not going to only one of us. There's only one Danielle. I'm not a Danielle.
There aren't many of us. So hello, everybody. I think I only have met Richard and Christina in the past. So nice to be here. Nice to meet you all. Can you hear me okay? I've got a new pair of earphones. Okay. So I'm a chartered marketer, and I've had a fractional marketing business for about 11 years. I specialize in B2B. So what I mean by that, CEOs of small professional services in law, finance, coaching, and consulting. So I don't call myself a CMO because I'm not dealing with budgets, but I do a lot of strategy, and I do the execution as well because I like both pieces a lot. And I have the other audience I help, and I finally come up with a program that I'm really excited about for a smaller audience. So not business CEOs of small firms, but actually these independent professionals like many of us. I've created a new online live course called the Authentic AI Marketing Course. It's in its pilot program. And so I'm teaching non-marketers who have their own businesses to use AI authentically so it sounds like them and build their own little marketing collaborator. The pilot program is going really well. I'm going to announce the program tomorrow. And, my hope is that this will become a lead generator into my fractional business one day. But that's a long lead time. So in the meantime, for my fractional marketing business, I have a couple of lead magnets, not lead magnets. I'm going to call them levers. I depend a lot on relationship building and networking. I have a pretty good LinkedIn presence, but it's a lot of in-person for me. And these firms are not willing to take someone on sight unseen, even though I come to them by referral. So what we often do is a kind of a get to know you consulting session. for a fee, and I can generally give them their strategy in an hour and a half because they only have so many resources. They're not a startup. They're B2B marketing for these professional services much more about communications than it is about, a B2C type of marketing. So B2B in startups is different than the B2B in the established, from what I understand, although I haven't done B2B for startups. So that's kind of where I am in my space and what levers I'm using to bring my clients along in a journey or bring them into a fold, because these fractional contracts are meant to be long lasting. I had a client for 7 years, and and my goal was always to work myself out of a job, and I did. They developed the capacity in-house with my help, and now I can move on and develop those programs in other people's organizations, and so that they can bring someone junior in to do these things. So I feel like a lot of B2B independent professionals and even CEOs are taking a lot of the wrong marketing advice. They're taking a lot of advice that's meant for B2C and meant for products that are not software, that are like hair ties or hair brushes or jewelry online, and they're working themselves into a lather, and it's really discouraging to see. So I am loving this authentic AI marketing course because a lot of people are afraid to try it on their own. They don't know what to do, and they do know that they sound generic if they don't know how to use it properly. So I'm offering kind of this 2-for-1 for them, and really enjoying it. I kind of feel like it's advocacy because they're not ready for agencies, and they're so done with doing it themselves. So finally, I feel like I can help.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Since you and I sound like we do somewhat similar things, maybe
Yeah.
different industries. So when you say you do marketing execution, are you specifically referring to you're the actual person who does all the copywriting, all of the actual execution?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't do execution. Frankly, I don't know how, because I've always worked for a large company as a
Yeah.
and so I've always had like a team of people. So what I do with my clients is one of the criteria has to be, for me, they have to have junior people. I can direct, I can teach, I can train, but I'm not the one sitting there going into Facebook.
Yeah. I like doing all of the pieces so much that I don't want to give any of it up. And I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Let me pass it on to Christina, because you mentioned Christina
Yes.
before.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Christina Rahesia. I am a search engine optimization and search engine marketing expert. I've been in marketing for a very long time, as those of you, and I think I've met a lot of you before, know. I come from big company as well, sort of the Nike's, Crafts, Toronto International Film Festivals of the world. But now I specialize in, driving leads via Google to companies. Mostly mid-size and small-size companies, but I also work for enterprise firms. And yeah, so actually to Rob's earlier question, you can definitely do campaigns for much less than $5,000 a month. And so, yeah, that is a little bit crazy how much they're suggesting. There's a setup cost, there's some monitoring cost to monitor, but then you can decide how much you spend kind of per day. So you do not need to spend that much money a day to get the results. So similar to what Dorothy was saying, is that it just depends on the geographical area you're targeting. In terms of levers for myself, it's a good question. Like, I know we spoke a little bit about it last time. I do a complimentary audit, actually, that's part of the proposal. Audit obviously can mean very different things depending on how much you go in depth for a client. But for me, especially from an organic standpoint, a lot of people have no idea if their website is set up for success. And so I pay for a tool that obviously I can amortize across the clients that I work with. And I'm able to tell them what are the errors, what are the warnings that are there. And I think, so that's what's provided complimentary. And it sort of is a lead generator in the sense that when people see sort of red and yellow issues that are there, usually like they want to resolve those particular ones. Like I don't go into the minutia of the blue ones, like the smaller ones. Those are things we sort of let there. So that's one thing. Another thing I do as like things that I used to like as a client from the high performing agencies or people I work with is just sort of be a student of the industries of every client that I work with. So I carve sort of an hour a week to be seeing what's happening in the industry, seeing what's happening kind of in financial, what's happening with their competitors. So I just feel like you're showing added value by being curious and being intelligent about what's happening in their world and sharing value there. Because usually as a client, you're so busy that you don't actually take that extra time.
So my big thing, and I think I said this before, is I would start charging for that audit. I bet you your competitors give it for free. I bet they do. But I wonder, like all the time I used to work for those giant agencies, they expect a lot of free stuff. I wonder if there's that. You put a ridiculously low price on it that they can't say no to, because when you pay $1 for something, it's like what Rob said before. You just expect like you're going to participate more, right? Because you're expected to participate. I just my 2 cents on that, but yeah. I love those ideas. I hired, so when I was worked at Sheridan College and we're procuring a new website, I did some exercises trying to get the budget up, and one of them was exactly that, an audit. Tell me what's wrong with the site. And they did the red, green, blue, and they didn't even put recommendations. And that was enough evidence for me to go get a budget with, basically. So it's extremely valuable for them as well as it is for you. So I love that. I love audits in general. So Dave Jamakui, and I'm just going to screw up your name. Sorry, Dave. Say it properly, please.
No worries. It's Dave Jamakio, digital marketing with a you're close. With a focus on UI design and public-facing websites. I've been in the industry for coming up about 17 years now. Levers, yeah, it's a good question. It's not something I actually think about too much. I don't think I'm adding anything new to the conversation here, being one of the latter, I guess, contributors to this conversation. But, similar to what Richard said, I do a lot of discovery calls with clients before I even get a quote out. Like we'll talk about, similar to also what Christina's saying, like we'll do an audit kind of like just on the fly on this call, kind of what they're looking for, what their needs are, any business problems that they need to solve, because we always come at website as solutions to business problems. So that's really our approach with it. And then more recently, again with the whole audit thing, I have been starting to offer design audits. Right. Well, I'll actually build out a report, take screenshots of what's working well, what isn't working well, and then summarizing that with a few recommendations. So I think in the last 6 months or so, I've put a few of those out, and that's actually led to some new business. I did not actually did charge for those, like very, very like nominal amounts, so nothing crazy. But I think that's kind of something I'm hoping to incorporate more into my, I guess, funnel. But really, 90% of what I'm doing is just those discovery calls that like Richard was talking about.
Yeah, I love that, and I think there's a lot of people who would I don't even know what's wrong, and you can kind of help them get across. I know there's something wrong. I haven't got a clue where it is. It kind of gets that conversation going. I love those. I love that design audit. I never even thought of that. Rajiv, we talked about different things. One thing first, though. So CFO, I've run into a number of different CFOs, and there's just like CMOs. There is a different thing that you do depending on who you are, and there's a bit of an explanation that has to happen. Is that, or do people just know what you do? Maybe you could tackle it, because I was talking to another CFO. So no, I don't do that. I do this, right? And it's like, okay, this market's is pretty broad as well. Go ahead, Rajiv.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. So let me just kind of give a quick intro about myself. Rajiv Pereira. I'm a founder partner of SQ Business Advisory. So we are fractional finance leaders. Where really target market is the small and mid-sized business, where we provide certainly the fractional CFO side of it. We provide strategic advisory services, which are more often than not one-off engagements. So developing, business planning, annual and strategic business planning, for instance, just so that it, financial strategy has to be married with how the business owner, what strategy the business owner is planning to execute on over the next few years, right? And they need to plan for that. They need to understand the financial impacts, returns, cash flow, all of that stuff, right? That's the long term. There's also the annual stuff, the head count. How does that marry up with the expansion plans, cash flow, seasonality, all of that stuff. So there's a lot to really unpack when it comes to financial strategy, whether it's just annual or multi-year. So these are some of the things that we provide. So in terms of levels, like I notice there's a lot of marketing folks here. So I've actually, I've been a fly on the wall for the most part because I've been learning a lot. I've attended, this is my second call in this group, and I've learned a lot from you guys because, I'm not a marketing guy and I'm not a sales guy, right? And one of the things that I have picked up is this whole assessment aspect of it. Now, any client that I engage with, I have to have a discovery call. I don't necessarily charge for that discovery call, but I need to understand what are their pain points, what are their gaps, and before I recommend any kind of solution, whether it's an ongoing or one-time engagement, right? But what I have done, and this kind of came about from the last call of this group that I attended, is that I've started to think about doing an assessment at a 50,000 foot level for a nominal fee, right? The one thing is I don't necessarily offer it randomly to every client. A lot of my clients come through in-person referrals, networking, etc. So I try to assess the level of engagement the client actually has, right? If I feel that there is a certain level of engagement and they're open to having a fairly serious discussion about it, then I offer that out. So for example, last Thursday I was at a networking social and was talking to this individual who runs a custom blinds business. Now he's thinking, with the real estate market down, and he wants to diversify, right? And he was very very focused on the diversification. So I said, listen, I can help you. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's set up a call. Absolutely, no strings attached. And, talk to me about which areas you want to diversify. And I'm going to ask you the tough questions. Some of it you may have already thought of, and there may be others that you may not have already thought of. But what it does is it kind of gets you really thinking strategically about, does this really marry up with what I'm doing now? Does it make sense? Is there a market for it, right? Am I going to earn money from it, right? So that's one of the levers that I am kind of that I've gotten from this group. So those of you who were there at the last call, thank you for that input. I certainly value that. And to address your question, Richard, you're absolutely right. So here's the thing. What's different about what we do is we are not just fractional CFOs, right? We are more akin to, if I were to draw a parallel from the big five consulting companies, we are more akin to a PwC or Deloitte, because we can come in and do a bunch of different things. We can implement a finance ERP and provide that the business subject matter view in terms of implementing that financial ERP, right? We are not technology people, right? But when you implement a financial ERP, technology is only one aspect of it. The business aspect of it has to make sense. You can't just pop it in there and expect it to work magically, right? So we don't necessarily specialize in, I know some fractional CFOs will say, I do only M&A work. And Richard, you and I talked about this, right? We are more about financial strategy in helping companies to continue their growth, scale up, understand the financial health, right? Because a lot of small and mid-sized businesses don't really know about their profits. They know they're making a profit, but what is their margin? What is their profit margin? Are there avenues to improve that, right? And given all the uncertainty around tariffs and stuff, I'm having much more productive discussions with those businesses, because what I tell them is this: you can take the lazy man approach to tariffs, pass it down to the consumer, sure, but that may not be sustainable in the long run. So now you got to think about how you're going to pivot. You can pivot at a variable cost level, in which case you may have to look at supply chain, right? How are you going to look at alternate supply chains? You can also look at from your operational overheads perspective. How do you switch that? And that's where things like technology investments come in, right? So I know I've occupied a lot of time, but yeah, I'm gonna.
No, I was going to say that one story about the gentleman selling blinds and about the Diversica, about that do an incredibly expensive change off a whim, and like a I don't know how long their call was, probably saved them a phenomenal amount of money with a short call. Like you gotta that's a huge lever right there. That's a huge value for them. I'm gonna let David Smith close it up for us. I think, and I've been hesitant to say this, but I've run into a lot of folks my age that I feel like they aged out of the corporations, the organizations, or what they were doing, and now they're in this different space trying to figure it out. And I think David's got a really interesting idea of how to kind of support and tackle that problem. Sorry, David. I hope I didn't change the way you promote yourself.
No, that's fine. Thanks for that. And Rajiv signed up on it already too. So, we, for those who came in a little bit late, we launched an online platform or a marketplace that matches experienced business people. By that, I mean age 45 plus, and we celebrate the experience that they have with startups and SMEs. Canada is known to have a weak entrepreneurial culture and very weak on scaling up companies. And so it seems crazy to have all this bench strength of people aging up and disappearing in the cracks when they could be solving the problems that we're facing. SMEs could be the engine of our economy much more than they are today. So that's basically what the marketplace does. And so it's not about employment; it's about gigs. Freelance, fractional, consulting, contracts. Easy as plug and play. We have a unique pipeline for the talent and the consultants, and we have unique access to it as on-demand self-serve. So it's very quick time to short list of candidates, and then therefore to action for companies as well. And so like marketplaces usually deal with the chicken or egg scenario. Do you focus on the seller first or the buyer first? And usually it's the seller, and that's what we've been doing. So we're up to about 70 people now have signed up with their experience. We welcome anybody else to keep growing. So now we're beginning to shift to the business development side of it, which will be, the code we got to crack. We did a webinar a couple of weeks ago for the Innovation Factory and their clientele. Karen, you mentioned the Forge. Yeah, so they're kind of co-located with the Forge in Hamilton here, Hamilton, Burlington. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that. Well, we haven't cracked the code yet. Word of mouth is building. The website is not providing the capture rate, the conversion rate I'd like to see. When I'm explaining it to people, they get it and they say, "Wow, that's awesome." So I need to improve it, build better, solid foundation on the SEO and all those kinds of things. So I have done marketing in my background in the past, but I left that behind years ago to do general management and then sustainability because my undergrad was environmental science. So learning about the digital tools and all that kind of stuff. So I need to shift gears now and get much more of a focus to the business development side of it, and I keep getting pulled back into some of the balls that I'm balancing.
So I would actually like to take a look at that. So are you talking to the Forge as well, or just?
No, I'm not at the moment. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have a look at your website afterwards.
I think I might have mentioned your name when I talked to David. So I think if you have the
Oh, me?
time, Karen. Yeah, you, Karen. Sorry. Sorry, I should have said you. So it would be because it's a similar situation that you've been in before, right? It's so I'll let you guys connect and take that conversation. Go
Are you
ahead,
in our-
Dorothy. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, are you in that group? The one that I just signed up for? Richard's
I'll connect you with David.
And also elderberry.work is in the chat there. That's the name of the company. And so you can get contact information from there, or just email me david.smith@elderberry.work with a very common first and last name.
I'll send an intro, Karen, so you don't have to write it down. Don't worry about it.
okay.
Dorothy, go ahead.
David, actually, I worked with a David Smith about a company I'm about to tell you. So back in the day when I worked in financial services in Jamaica, we actually had a resource out of Canada with this very same concept who came down to Jamaica to give us help when we were a startup company then. So as you continue to look about how you're going to expand, maybe outside of Canada could be one opportunity, because we found it pretty valuable that we got this resource that came in to help us.
Yeah, thanks. I absolutely agree. The demographics, the aging of the population, the low fertility rates is going to mean economies need to retain this kind of talent and can't afford to lose it. So let's get it going in Canada. Then I've worked in the States for 6 years. I'm very comfortable there. So we'll do that. And then other OECD countries as well, is kind of the plan. So, but, Canadians, I think, will be a little more risk averse, and so may not be quite as quick to get going. I'm expecting that in the States, will be even a much quicker pickup.